Release the hostages. Release the hostages.
The hostages are going to be gone. So what more can you say now? Because
Right.
it was never about the frickin' hostages. Welcome back to Kim's Breaking Point. I'm your host, Kim Abor, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Femme from the She Rhoasts podcast. You already know that when we talk, we go deep, honest, and straight to the point. Today we're zeroing in on Gaza, the ceasefire deal that just happened, what that means and what it doesn't mean for Gaza moving forward, and that wild curveball. Trump being floated for a Nobel Peace Prize over this, plus whatever else we end up getting into along the way. Before we get into it, make sure you're following both me and Femme for more updates on Gaza, global politics, hot topics, and stories that the mainstream media often forgets. All right, let's get into it. So let's start with what's actually going on with the ceasefires, because it's not just a pause. It's loaded with conditions and power plays like we already know. Israel is doing its worst to slow this whole process down, and that's what we're going to talk about right now. Israel and Hamas have signed off on the first phase of a ceasefire framework under Trump's 20-point plan. So within 72 hours of ratification, after it's officially signed, Hamas is supposed to release Israeli captives, both living and deceased, and Israel would free Palestinian prisoners. So what do you think is going to happen with this? Because Israel has backed out of every deal that they've ever had before. So that's where my concern comes into play.
Of course, yeah. As everyone's been celebrating, and full of joy because we thought there was a ceasefire. It turns out there really wasn't a ceasefire at all, because apparently Israel gets to do whatever they want. So they had to go and ratify the terms of the agreement, which they continued to stall several times. They had pushed it back a couple more hours, and then they had finally just got it done after Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, the U.S. envoy for negotiations for Gaza, joined Netanyahu finally in the meeting. And we knew that we knew the far right cabinet members such as, Ben Gvir and Smotrich they wanted to vote no on this, but I feel they were kind of backed in a corner at this point, and it was imminent that they needed to get their hostages back. Sure.
We both have feelings about that. So just to clarify, because I'm not 100% sure, because it's been going on all day today, has an official agreement, like the first phase of the initial agreement,
Yes.
has that been met?
Yes, the first phase, finally, in the meeting where they were ratifying the terms and agreements, they all did finally come to.
Okay.
They came to sign it, and it says here that the ceasefire officially went into place at 2 a.m. Gaza time, so that would have been about 4 hours ago or so.
Okay. So Israeli troops will pull back from the agreed line, often so-called the yellow line. And I want to pull that up to show you guys really quickly, because it's very important that you guys know what the yellow line looks like. This is crucial to note. Even after they've done this, right, Israel remains control of nearly 60% of Gaza. Major territories, the crossings, the border control, all the neighborhoods, like all of this in yellow, all of this used to be Gaza. Right? Before 2 years ago, which Gaza was still tiny, right?
Mm-hmm.
But all of this used to be Gaza. And now 60%, all of this in yellow right here, is now going to Israel. And that just makes me sick on more levels than I could even tell you. So control of border crossings like Rafah, which would be down here, remain with Israel, which means movements of peoples, goods, and aid still depend on Israeli approval. The one thing I can say that I did see today, that we actually saw together, was that they were allowing trucks in. And we both know how much that is needed right now.
Yeah, there definitely have been some really feel-good moments in all of this. It looked like the attacks were slowing down, but unfortunately, there have been some really horrible attacks that have still been being committed during the following hours of negotiation, including a massacre on Gabun House. Apparently, was a residential building housing over 70 civilians.
Yes.
But I digress. To go back to what you were saying about the yellow line, it says here, yes, in 24 hours from now, the IDF will have withdrawn to the yellow line. And I believe one of the points in negotiations that Hamas was actually pushing was to try to get that yellow area, the line pulled back a little bit. So I'm not exactly sure, because there's been a lot of information coming out. But
there has been a lot of information coming out,
Right.
Especially about this line. So at later dates, like this is the first phase, they're supposed to pull back farther from that point every time that there's a a second phase or a third phase. I don't know
Okay.
how many phases are going to be,
Until
but for
there is a
right
complete
now,
withdrawal. Right.
yes. But for right now, that's where they're withdrawing to. And that's still, like I said, that's over 60%. I thought the number was like 63% of Gaza. And I just have to remind everyone how many people are packed into these tiny spaces. For the majority of this right here is all of Gaza City, right? Down here is where Rafah is. It's barely touching the portion that they're supposed to be in. So, and then the north of Gaza up here, they don't have access to most of that as well either. And people are already trying to return home. So
Right.
there's many things happening at once. A big flashpoint that I want to make clear: disarmament weapons surrendered by Hamas. Israel insists Hamas must relinquish its arms for the war to truly end. Hamas has publicly resisted full disarmament, but provides some private channels. But some private channels suggest that they make compromises with certain offensive weapons. That scares the crap out of me, because if they give up everything that they have to defend themselves, what happens if, and I even hate to say that, but we know that we've seen in past ceasefire agreements what Israel does,
At no
right?
point does it ever make any sense. Like, it's just like something out of a movie, I think. Like, trust us, just lay down your weapons and we promise, like, we'll be good. Like, no, we don't trust you, and nobody in their right mind would ever do that. I think even they know it's ridiculous to ask the resistance to lay down their weapons, because at that point, yeah, how would they defend themselves? I mean, there's a reason why they don't want, Iran having nuclear capabilities, and that is because the countries that have nuclear capabilities, they don't get fucked with. So yeah, it's outrageous to ask them to lay down their weapons. Resistance has now, because of occupation, become an ingrained part of Palestinian culture, society, and even in their DNA. Like, it'd be like asking Americans to lay down their weapons,
Arms.
and that's crazy. Like, there's people in this country that would never, like, surrender their
Right,
guns.
right. So, that's part of our that's part of our constitution, which is being eroded anyways. But
Right,
needless to say, that if Americans had to give up their guns, which this is a fight we have all the time online, more than likely most of them are not going to do it.
right. And which, yeah, like you said, it's part of our constitution. It's part of our rights to bear arms, because that is a form of checks and balances. Because
Right.
that, it does check, it checks, who's ever in charge, or like whoever in this case the occupier is. What would they have, if they didn't have that? I mean, I will say, like, they do a damn good job with slingshots and rocks, but it's not enough to come up against, a billions-dollar backed military, which
Right.
Israel has, versus them. And I mean, when you think about it like that, it's amazing, because the resistance has managed to hold off a giant like entity that is funded by billions of dollars by the American superpower and hegemony. Them without even a real military has literally managed to stave off the occupation for 2 years now.
Yes.
It's amazing.
I agree. I don't know how this has happened, but it has, and how we've been able to like how we've been able to keep so many families from ending, which is a whole other topic to the story. We both have been very involved with families who are on the ground, helping them with money, with food, with whatever we could possibly think of that would help them in the moment. And I just have to say, like, if this goes through, which I'm praying it actually goes through, it would be amazing. However, with that being said, I think that we have to keep our wits about us, because Israel is Israel. They're a snake in the
Yeah.
grass.
Right. Well, look
And
what they did. I mean, first thing, they signed an agreement, which should be, it's all null. It should be that's now it's an official agreement. You've signed it. There's no turning back. And they already immediately, broke the
right,
ceasefire. They had to also go and, make adjustments to the agreement. Like, why they're even allowed to do that, I don't understand. Why they're literally allowed to act with such impunity over here, like a spoiled child getting upset that they're not getting their way. It's like, haven't you taken enough? Look at that. Like, not only has the whole area that Kim was showing us with the yellow
mhm,
included Gaza, but like the whole land used to be Palestine. When you look
right,
at like old maps, you just see how much they have slowly just taken until they've pretty much taken the whole place. And at this point, it's like, they've talked about occupying Gaza. So we know that they didn't want their hostages back, because getting hostages back would equal them not having an excuse to basically come in and do what they're doing in Gaza, right?
Right.
But at this point, they're being forced because there's so much pressure on all sides coming in on them, even from their own society, that they knew at this point they had to agree to get those hostages back, or else all hell is going to break loose on all
Yes.
ends.
So analysts are already warning that the first phase is fragile, right? For it to hold, Trump and mediators will have to pressure Israel hard, hold Netanyahu's feet to the fire, as one Al Jazeera journalist put it. Because if we don't, shit's gonna hit the fan real fucking fast.
Yeah, I've had people make comments on some of my videos saying, you know, if they renege on their side of the agreement, like they are going to crash out like big time. And I'm like, the whole world's gonna crash out. Like the whole world's gonna burn if
Well,
they
the
go
one
back on this right now.
the one big theme that we've heard from stupid
Oh
Israeli
my
people
god.
screaming for months is
Release the hostages. Release the hostages.
Right.
Release the
right?
Yeah.
We've all had to listen to at least 5 people in every single live in every place we've ever gone protesting saying release the hostages. The hostages are going to be gone, right? So what more can you say now? What more do
Right.
you have? Because
Right.
it was never about the frickin' hostages.
Yeah. That was a point that Hamas came out and said. You know, they're smart. They know they know the enemy they're dealing with better than anybody. They've been living with them for, you know, almost 100 years now, and they know all their tricks and all the they know how the Zionists work, right? Like they'll go to any means necessary in order to get what they want, and so they already know this and they've been prepared for that. And one
Yes.
thing that they did comment was like, you know, there are many good things about this and many successes actually that we can call small victories within even the first phase of this agreement. Like basically if Israel gets their hostages back, they will no longer have an excuse to be bombing Gaza nonstop, because if that's been one of their main, you know, Hasbara points this entire time is release the hostages, then you get your hostages back. Now what? Now why are you having any business of being there?
Right. So I just brought up the other point from Al Jazeera today, and this was just with Hamas signing off on the first phase of the Gaza ceasefire plan. Okay, I just wanted to show you this picture because even though a ceasefire has been reached, they have been bombing them all frickin' day. All day. And like you mentioned before, we've had over 70 people killed today. And who knows if that number is actually correct. But I just want to make that clear. Like every time that there's a ceasefire imposed, they go in harder and
Yeah,
with their
it's like
attacks.
I said, it's like they throw a big tantrum, you know, like they're so mad that they're not getting their way, so they're going to go in and collectively punish the Palestinians, which has been, you know, that's been major. It's been a tactic that they've used this entire time. Is anytime there's a victory on the resistance end, or anytime, you know, the public pushes back and creates a fuss, they take it out on the Palestinians. And so they've been doing that. And it's sad because some people who celebrated at the ceasefire when it was signed will not make it to literally see the effects of the ceasefire take place, because they will have been martyred by
Right,
Israel before that.
right. And I truly, truly believe that they have their list and they're going to go after them even harder. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they do this every time. It's not a shocker, but
Mhm.
it's still heartbreaking to see this
Yeah.
happen.
Interesting was and it was really appalling the entire time it was happening. The ISIS backed Abu Shabaab gangs that were funded by Israel. And this is just a little bit of a side quest, but you know, Israel basically was saying like, oh my gosh, we're so sorry for them. Like, good luck, basically. So Israel kind of turned their backs on these Abu Shabaab gang members who were, you know, they were responsible for looting. They were selling looted goods and aid to merchants for extremely, extremely high prices, inflating the cost of things that were already expensive, and literally doing that to their own people who were starving. They were doing all kinds of things with the GHF sites, and they had even, I believe, unalived some resistance members. They did target one of the resistance units. Israel pretty much turned them over, and they were getting a taste of, some of them were getting a taste of street justice, from which I saw on them internet streets. It goes to show, like, can't trust the enemy. I don't know if what they thought or what they were promised, but it all just reminds me of like, it's like some crazy movie where it's like, there's these traitors, they trust the enemy, they listen to them, and next thing you know, like they get stabbed in the back by these guys too. It's like you're gonna turn your back on your own people and trust the enemy. Of course they're gonna do to you what they always do.
I just want to read this really quick because this was an announcement Trump made. when he was announcing the ceasefire. He said, I'm very proud to announce that Israel and Hamas have both signed off on the first phase of a peace plan. And then he says all hostages will be released very soon, and Israel will withdraw their troops to an agreed upon line, which was that map I just showed you. So Trump at least thinks that he knows what he's saying, which he doesn't. He just likes to assume that everyone's going to follow his rules. But along with that, there's several pieces to the ceasefire plan that I just wanted to mention. So we talked about the 20-point plan. Israel's cabinet ratified the deal, so it will become valid within 24 hours after this deal is signed, and it was just signed a couple hours ago. So we have a little bit of time. And then
Does it say that in the article, 24 hours? Because there was a little bit of contention
so
whether it was 24 hours.
So
Go ahead.
yes, within
Okay.
24 hours. So they just signed it. What did you say, about 4 hours ago? So they have 24 hours from 4 hours ago for that to become in law. And then within 72 hours of the ratification, Hamas will release all of the Israeli captives, both alive and deceased that they have, and Israel would free Palestinian prisoners. The one thing that gets me is they don't say which Palestinian prisoners, how many Palestinian prisoners. It just says that they would release them.
So right here, I have something from, let's see, I have a statement from one of the, Hamas leader in Gaza, Khalil al-Hayya. The agreement includes the entry of aid, the opening of the Rafah crossing, and a prisoner exchange. 150 life sentence prisoners and 1,700 Gaza prisoners arrested after October 7 will be released, along with children and women, all children and women. So all women and children that they have from Gaza. This doesn't include the West Bank, although I do feel like things are going to be happening with the West Bank too, as they already are. But I've seen some things that are
I've
really
seen some
interesting.
things too.
Yeah.
Nothing official, but I've seen some things on that as well.
Right. Yeah. So they'll be getting to them next. But for now, it looks like 250 life sentence prisoners, 1,700 Gaza prisoners, and then all the women and children that they have from Gaza.
So the ones that were sentenced to life before, my understanding, and you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, but my understanding is the ones who were sentenced to life in prison before this whole genocide happened 2 years ago. My understanding was that when they're released, they'll be released, but they're not going to be released into Gaza. They're going to be released outside
Yeah,
of
I have
Gaza.
something right here. It's from the Palestinian Observer. All 250 life sentence prisoners will be gathered in the Negev prison, then deported to Gaza and abroad, and none of them will be allowed to enter the West Bank. The main countries to which they will be deported are Qatar, Turkey, and some other countries, including Pakistan, Malaysia, after they are transferred to Egypt following the Gaza stage.
Jesus. Okay.
So a
just
lot of them
wanted-
are going to be deported to other countries, it's looking like, and then maybe some will be allowed to go back to Gaza, but I'm thinking all the high level people and anyone that was involved in like October 7, they're not going to let them go back.
Right.
Yeah.
So on top of that, Israel will pull back troops to the agreed upon line, and then the major territories crossings, the border control, and the neighborhoods, they'll slowly start to pull out of there. Control of border crossings like Rafah remain with Israel, which means the movement of people, goods, and aid still depend on Israeli military. So that's
And
one
at no
thing that I
point in
do not
history
like.
have we ever seen that be a thing where the genocidal force that's unaliving people at an exponential rate every single day is also in charge of bringing them food and aid. Like, it's like asking, it's the same way that they commit atrocities, call it an accident, and then say they're going to investigate themselves. Like, it's a little bit of a conflict of interest, if you ask me.
So
But
have you
yes.
heard anything about the Kareem crossing?
So part of the agreement had stated that I believe it said 8 of the crossings will be open for aid to come through. And it's going to start with anywhere around 300 to 400 trucks a day until they get the hostages. And then I think it's supposed to be, and then I think maybe, I don't know if it's phase 2, don't quote me on all of this, but at some point it is supposed to be an uninhibited amount of aid that's coming through. Right now they're saying that the UN is supposed to be in charge of whatever aid is coming in. So,
they're supposed
and I
to be
believe
in
part of
charge.
the stipulations also were that the Rafah crossing eventually opens in both directions.
Yes.
So I don't know if that means for people to be allowed to leave or what that all means yet.
That was
There's
my
a lot
understanding. They
developing.
are going to be allowing families to leave if that's what they choose to do, but it's still controlled by Israel with who they're
Right.
letting in and who they're letting out. So that could be a
Yeah.
really tricky portion coming into play. And then this agreement was mediated indirectly, which means it was via Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey, and the U.S. And all the sides didn't meet face to face. It was just kind of like a quick little chat back and forth between messages and phone
Okay.
calls, all that kind of stuff. No one actually
We
was.
got some little group chat going over there.
Yeah, something like that.
I'd like to be a fly on the wall and see that group chat.
Right. I don't. And it's because of some of Hamas is in Gaza, some of Hamas is outside of Gaza, and it just depends on how they're able to get access to all these things and how they're able to pull all the information together. But this is what they've come up with. This is their plan. So now we just got to, talk about what happens now, right? What
Yeah.
happens now with all of this stuff. So the ceasefire is in motion as of tomorrow, I think about 20 hours from right
Alhamdulillah, thank
now,
God.
or when this will go live, right? It will already
Mhm.
be in effect. So
Yeah.
we should start to see the prisoner exchanges happening now. That was one thing that we've talked about. They're not going to televise the prisoner exchanges. And
At least they probably will. I don't know if they're going to do it for probably the Israeli hostages, but they're saying like they don't want they're so petty. They don't want the Palestinian hostages getting any
well,
airtime.
I think that it's twofold, right? The reason
It
why
is? Okay, I didn't
they
know.
don't want it aired is they want to be able to say when their hostages are released that they were treated so poorly, blah blah blah, all
Right.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it
Which
wasn't good. It wasn't good for business the last time when all the hostages came out like looking pretty decent
and
and
loving who
even
they were
smiling
with.
and winking at some of those Qassam brigades members.
And the other portion of that is why I don't think they want it aired is because they know that the prisoners coming out of the prisons in Israel look
Look bad.
terrible coming
Yeah.
out, which we're going to see it anyways. Like once they're back
Right.
home,
Yeah, well,
we're going to see,
exactly.
we've already seen how
Yeah.
prisoners look when they leave these places anyway. So I don't know what that is going to really do for them.
I think a lot of it actually has to do with also like everybody seeing how strong the resistance is and how uniform they are and how good with the PR they are and everything. It really makes Israel look bad in their whole like destroying Hamas, narrative. Like they're like over here, like, hey, we're strong. Like we haven't lost numbers in quite a while, actually. But as far as I know, they've been wiping the floor with them during their ground invasions. So I think they don't they don't want people to see like just how strong the resistance actually
Yeah.
still is.
So, with this being said, right, the UN is preparing a surge of humanitarian aid, medical supplies, food, especially in the first 60 days of the ceasefire. And this is so desperately needed because we have seen these families literally starving to death, right? And I know that we spoke about this earlier today, but these families are in such bad condition. They're already in stage 5 famine. Most of these families, these kids, people that we see that are in these really poor conditions, if they live,
Mhm.
right? If they live and they're able to come out of this, they're going to be traumatized just from the food portion alone, just from the famine for the rest of
Mhm.
their lives, for the rest of their generations, because this is going to affect them severely. And I think that people don't understand what stage 5 famine looks like and what it does to the body,
Right.
you
You're
know?
getting close to like a total organ shutdown at that
Yes,
point. And I think also one thing to consider here is that not only are we dealing with unprecedented psychological trauma
right.
to the likes of which we've never
Never
seen
seen.
before, so we have no idea like what effects this is actually going to have on the Palestinian people. Thank God that they're so steadfast and so strong in their faith that I really do feel like they're going to get through this. Like I feel like half the time I'm like they are not because they want to, but because they've had to become that way. But like I think it's like they're stronger than I could ever dream of being. Some of these children, they keep smiling even, regardless. But the
Isn't that
epigenetic
amazing?
consequences of
Isn't that
starving
amazing?
a
Yeah.
population is going to be for years to come. I mean, we've seen results, we've seen consequences like that with the Irish people who were, forced into their own starvation when they were occupied by the British. Like it created long-term health problems with, later generations that were born. So for me, I'm really worried about the epigenetic consequences of all these babies and children who have really been the ones to suffer the starvation the worst because their bodies aren't developed enough to basically be able to sustain themselves on food that has no nutrition. And, like we've seen, sometimes they only have access to, basic things like pasta or rice or canned foods, which are really lacking in nutritional value.
Yes. When we talk about this stuff, it's so hard to put into terms to where people understand. And the easiest way of doing it is just showing you these videos and these footage, because being able to see with your own eyes what Israel has done to this point to these families is beyond imagination. When I tell you that I've seen babies so shriveled and they look like death, there's no other way to sell it. Some of these babies, they come out of their mothers looking like death. And it's because of the starvation level that these families are placed under. And you can't grasp it until you see it,
Right.
right? Like, no matter how much you tell me, oh, I don't want to see, I don't want to see, you need to see, because it
Yeah.
is that bad. And until you're able to see it and understand and conceptually get the full picture, you don't understand what we're talking about. You could
Right.
listen and hear us say whatever we're going to say, but until you see it with your own eyes, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it reminds me of my little Miriam, Miriam
Yeah.
and her mother Dalal, a family I've been working with, for over a year now, who, when they came to me last year, little Miriam was already looking like skin and bones. She was distended from having like problems with her liver, and she was already looking like she was knocking on death's door at that point. But I came across some pictures of her on Telegram, and I literally had cognitive dissonance, and I didn't recognize her even though I saw the name. I thought, is that Miriam? There's no way. And my brain just kind of didn't want to acknowledge that it was her. And I think I knew because I got a message from her mom, which maybe we can share,
Yes.
um, a day after that, just saying, this is Miriam today. And it was her. And I knew it was her. And you can't tell me that that's AI or that that's, you know,
So before we continue, I just have to ask you this. Was this the little girl that we did that like quick little fundraiser for online months ago? This was Miriam, right? You pulled a few people together. We raised some money. Do you
yeah,
remember this, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, because I remember you saying that you were trying to get her evacuated to Egypt for treatment, which I don't think ever really happened. Is that correct?
I was trying to recently arrange evacuation for her, and we got pretty close, but um at that point Israel wasn't letting any
Yes.
children out, not even children who
Yes.
were in, probably she was in one of the high 1% of worst cases in Gaza, because I've seen her featured on major news outlets now, and I've seen her in a video, and maybe we can post that for the audience to see. Miss Rachel actually did a video featuring Miriam, and I was really happy to see that, because those kids just, they deserve a normal life. They deserve everything that every other child has. And it made me really happy to see Miss Rachel giving her, the airtime that she deserved, because I am only one person that's capable of so much. I don't have that big of a platform. And, I thought it would be really good if somebody could pick up her story, and seeing her getting exposure like that was really nice. But yeah, I don't know. Who knows what type of consequences that little girl's going to live with for the rest of her life, whether she'll be able to heal completely from this or not, because she's been in this state for well over a year now.
Right. And I remember when we were doing that fundraiser for her. I mean, it was a good amount of time ago. Like,
Yeah, it was like about last summer, I think.
yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. It's been a little while. These are the things that like are so important, right? Because we have worked really hard to keep families alive. And is it always possible? No, it's not. But when we can sit here and say that we've helped or we've tried our best to help families survive up until this point, what more can you say? Like, we're
And I think, like, that being said, what we've been doing is a form of resistance to anyone out there that's been working one on one with families on the ground, seeing all of this horror with their own eyes, living it with them, grieving and mourning with them. Hearing, we're on lives on TikTok, and we're hearing, bombs falling in the background. We're hearing the drones. Like, we're experiencing every moment with our families. Like, it makes it different. And I think it hits different when you go to talk to people about the issues as well, because it's like, you can't like argue with me that it's not real, because we have such close experience with these people. It is a form of resistance. And I think, like, we've all been really fighting hard, like, up until this point. And I know before the last ceasefire, I had a very similar feeling, kind of just in my body and mind and soul. This, like, pure utter exhaustion and, like, burnout, to where I almost kind of felt like, I feel like that signifies for some reason that this might be getting close to an end, because it's like we are all going through that. Like, I can't imagine what they're going through on the ground. I just know how hard it's even been for those of us who are, yeah, walking this road with our families every day, and have been for the past, 2 years.
And I just want to like focus on this for just a couple minutes because it's so important, right? We're talking about the ceasefire, what this means for the families, but at the end of the day, the only thing that matters are these families, right? Their lives, they're being able to get on with their lives, like those are the only things that matter. Because without that, like what have we been doing this whole time?
Right.
Right? We've been advocating for individual families, and there are so many families, and that's why I know you have said, why I have said, we need every single person advocating for someone, even if you
Yep.
just pick one family.
Yeah.
And I also want to stress this too, because even though if this ceasefire happens, goes through, this isn't it, right? Because these families are so devastated, they're going to continuously need our help in the future. And so I don't want people to think that "Oh, the fighting's over, we can move on."
No.
That's
The work
not an
is
accurate
like literally
description.
just begun.
Right.
And I think like we said both earlier, I know that I'm committed until my last breath to fight for the
Yes.
Palestinians, and they are going to need so much love and so much care and so much nurturing after this, and they should be allowed to have that. I mean, I wish America would open our doors and let them in here since we funded the entire thing to begin with. But I did have one of my families earlier, one of my good friends, he asked me, he's like, I feel like the past 2 years have been, it's like a dream, and I'm waking up from the dream all of a sudden. Like, is this even real? And I'm like, it's okay. Just sit with the gravity of the situation for a minute because, like, what you have been through is like so deeply traumatizing that we don't even know. Like, we don't even know what effects is going to have on your mind. Like, you need, and he asked me, what would you do if you like just lived what I lived and then suddenly
And
it
it's not like they
stops?
just lived it. Like they've been living this for
Yeah.
2 full years, right?
Yeah.
October 7th, October 6th through now, which is
Now,
what?
right.
The October 9th. Like 2 full years that all they've been trying to do is just survive. That's going to take a lot of work
Yeah,
to be
where do you
able to
go
go
from
back
there?
to.
Everybody's lost somebody. They've gone
Yes.
through catastrophic losses. Some families have been wiped off the civil registry. Like my good brother that I was talking about has lost over 250, 300 members of his family. Like their lives are going to be completely changed forever. Their memories are gone, their homes. Like it's not only like the physical infrastructure that can all be rebuilt, but like you can never bring back all the people that have been killed, and you can never bring back all the memories that are lost, the hopes and the dreams. Like they were just living their lives, going to university, planning their futures, planning their families, getting married. Some of them haven't even been married yet. Some of them were just little kids, like babies even, it like blows my mind to think about a baby being raised in that situation. Like we got to grow up and have like somewhat of a normal, you know, experience as like a baby and a toddler and a child. But like they've had this completely, like their whole world has just been turned upside down. And there's so many long-term effects, I think, to consider,
Well,
post
we
all
always
of
just
this.
call it PTSD, post traumatic stress
Hmm.
disorder, but this isn't even post yet, right?
No,
This is still active.
right.
So we don't know what's going to happen with how the mind works, how, all of these psychological effects. We have no idea what's going to be happening next. And even if you want to talk about like you and I, like we have a lot of trauma with this as well too, right? And
Everybody.
our trauma is nothing in compared to their trauma, but it's still all trauma, right? It's still all trauma. Like,
Yeah, trauma is trauma. It actually affects the brain. No matter what kind of trauma it is, it all affects the brain the same way. And so I think like it definitely has felt like a huge aspect of this war has been psychological. And I think that there's proof in that when Netanyahu had his little meeting recently where they were talking about, the battlefield of social media and how that's actually a huge player in this. So, they've been getting all up in all of our minds. And there's a reason why they've let all of the gore and horror be broadcast live because it's sending us a message subliminally. It's like, look what we've done to the Palestinians.
we
Like,
can
if
do it
you
to
come
you.
against our empire, we will do this to you too. And I truly believe that's the message that they've been sending us is like, if you think that we're not willing to do this to anyone that challenges us, you're totally wrong. And so it's like they are showing us all of that as a means of control, but it's a form of torture. Like we've
Yes.
all been through basically like whether it be psychological, physical, like we've all been tortured by them now at this point. We all need therapy. Like Israel, I'm sorry, but
I know I
you're going
need
to have to pay
therapy,
for therapy for all of us.
right?
America, I don't know. You don't really seem to look after us very well because it's about Israel first at this point. But
You know, my
you
daughter
need to pay
tells me
for my
every day that
therapy.
I need therapy because I'm
You know
like,
what? This is therapy right here.
it is therapy actually. But like she tells me all the time that I need therapy because like we could be having a random conversation and I'll be like, and like a little kid will walk by and it's like, I can't
Right.
like, I love kids. I love, seeing people happy and stuff like that. But anymore, I don't even want to hold a baby. Like
Yeah.
it's that
It's
bad.
hard for me
It's
too.
hard.
When I see people just living their life, it makes me angry in a way because I'm just like, it's like, dang, like it's a form of survivor's guilt. I think that
Yeah.
like I've just this entire time I've literally felt guilty for doing anything, and like our Palestinian fellas don't like they want us to live, and they always like it's funny the people that love me, my people, my families, they always check on me like, have you eaten? Like, are you okay? I want you to rest. Like, you know, my son Ali, he told me the other day, like, don't think about Palestine when you eat. Like, we'll eat too. But the fact that they care so much, even after what they've been through, is sweet, but still the guilt remains. Like,
Yes.
there is definitely hardcore survivor guilt. And it's hard for me to it's hard for me to look at little like American kids and think, like, why do your children get to be like happy, healthy, and fine? But because the kids that live in Palestine live there, they get, bombs dropped on their heads. Like,
Right.
why?
Right.
It's heartbreaking.
It's hard. And
Like half the population of I mean, a huge portion of the population of Gaza is children. Like the numbers that are coming out now are like saying that closer to 600,000 plus have been, killed in this entire genocide. Over 300,000 of which, so over half, being children and babies. What a world that we live in, you know?
yes.
But I think that's why there's been such like international outrage and why we've seen, I mean, for years, people have been trying to take boats on the flotillas. And then like, what, like how I said last time, what started as, one boat and one boat and one boat, eventually multiplied into 47 boats. And like now they're saying maybe 100,000 plus people are trying to sign up to go on the next round of
Right.
flotillas. And so I think it's just, I don't know. Human beings finally got tired. We finally got tired of waiting for the governments to
Well,
do
I think
something
I
because
think Israel also realized like this is going to continuously happen
yeah, we're
until
not going to
they
stop
right. And so
because
they're
none of
just
us
like
want to live in a world where babies are getting bombed. So
right.
we'd rather people would rather risk it all and go and try to do the best thing that they know how to do, which is you know get on a boat and sail through the sea. Like
So I
we
just
won't stop.
yeah, go ahead. Um
No,
so
go
with
ahead.
all of this being said, right? Reconstruction is a massive massive task. Gaza's infrastructure is devastated. There's homes are leveled, hospitals, water systems, power grids, everything that you could possibly think of that you need to live in a city has been erased pretty much. And so politically, power struggles may emerge. If Hamas ceded authority, there's a possibility that the internal fragmentation, like Hamas versus other Palestinian fractions, like who knows what's going to happen, right? Like we still have to like consider what happens next. And I don't like making assumptions about what's going to happen because everything's flexible, everything can change, right? Like we're not gods, right? We don't know what's going to happen in the future, but there's so
No,
many
the
different
deal is
possibilities.
flimsy altogether.
Right.
It's a multi-phase deal which isn't even fully laid out yet. Like we've got the first part of the first phase, that's it. After that, they're still going to have to do intense negotiations to figure
Right.
out the
And like,
rest. But I do think
yeah.
that after once the hostages are exchanged, I feel like the pressure on Israel will actually be like it'll be more intense because there's going to now be excuse me, you can edit that out. So, once the hostages return to Israel and the hostage exchange in the first phase is completed, I think a lot more pressure will be applied to Israel because now there's going to be other nations getting involved, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, other nations that are meant to foresee, the rebuilding process. I did just see something that said 200 troops are being sent from the US to go and they'll be on, I don't know if it said they're going to be on the Israel side. So what does that mean? They're going to be behind the yellow line, but still in Gaza. It said they're not going to be in Gaza. I don't know exactly what's going
Well,
on.
we
They
already
said
know
no
how I don't
American
trust
troops will
that.
be in Gaza, but
I
I
don't
don't
trust
trust it.
that. Like we've had the
Yeah.
whole GFH thing there and
Yeah.
we already know how that went, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't trust any of them.
No, exactly. And so, yeah, what comes next is definitely gonna be really interesting. We can pray for the best, right? Prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and I just hope that whatever happens is, to the benefit of the Palestinian people, because it makes me nervous just the way they've talked about basically turning Gaza into like a Dubai 2.0, as I think about how Dubai was created and like the dark side to that, which is a whole rabbit hole in itself. But it's like that place was built on like slave labor. I worry about the people, the Palestinians that want to stay, that they're always gonna be offered something that looks like a shiny thing in a box, but there's just like a piece of shit inside. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, here, yeah, you can stay and like we'll give you jobs and pay you to just like rebuild the whole place. And I mean, it's a theory, but it's like who else
Right,
is
like,
gonna do
there's
it?
so many and I would never, presume to tell a Palestinian what they need to do, whether they should go or stay, because
Right.
that's not our place to do,
Yeah.
but we really have to think about what happens for the families that do wanna stay versus the ones who do decide to leave, and not only for Gaza itself, but for the families that stay there, for the families that leave, like, there's so much guilt surrounding the whole situation, staying, leaving, providing for their children.
I know
I couldn't even
traveling
fathom
before was
that.
a difficult because Palestinians were considered stateless, like refugees in their own state. It wasn't recognized as a Palestinian state. And now, if I think the recognition of the Palestinian
It is
state,
there.
then I don't know what that means exactly for travel, because Palestinians are the only people on this whole planet that haven't been able to like move about freely. So, yeah, what comes next? Like, what happens with the families that want to leave? Why? I don't understand why they shouldn't just be given normal opportunity to travel freely as everyone else does.
And then we also have to think about, with that being said, the families who were able to be evacuated early on when the
Right.
genocide first happened still don't have documents. They're still not able to leave or Egypt. They're still not able to, what? I have so many friends who are doctors, lawyers, nurses, right? People with heavy degrees that
Hmm.
can't get jobs, can't
Right.
work in Egypt.
Yeah.
They can't do all these things because there's so much rules around them. And then on top of that, they don't even have their passports.
Right.
And there's no
It's
way
like
for them to
that.
get a passport.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's like that in a lot of other places where Palestinians are out in the diaspora. Like, I've known Palestinians that live in Belgium, and it's the same thing. When you're stateless and you're a refugee or you're seeking asylum somewhere, you literally don't have anything. You don't have a passport. You don't have documents for you to travel. Like, you're pretty much stuck there. And then how do you work? And it's a hard life. It's just really hard all around being Palestinian. Like, it sucks. I don't know why.
So I just want to throw this in there for a quick little happy, feel good kind of moment. So one of the families I helped during my last concert, which was in September, I think it was September 21st, he wasn't actually on the panel because he just went to school that exact same day. And so I'm so excited for him. He's been trying to get into school for the past 2 years, ever since he evacuated from Gaza in early 2024, I believe, is when he first got to Egypt. And so, when they got there, his life was on hold. He couldn't do anything. And so he finally got accepted to school last month. He started classes and he is doing so well. I'm so happy for him. I believe he's in Alexandria. His name is Saeed. And I will leave
Okay.
his links down below if you guys would like to donate to him, as well as Miriam's family as well too. These are two families or two individual people that we have to know very personally. And with Saeed, I have known him for almost the entire time that he's been in Egypt. And he's a young kid. I don't even think he may have just turned 21. And I'm just so happy for him that he's able to actually go to school. He wants to be a computer engineer. And I'm just happy that he's able to continue his dream. So,
Well, big shout out to Saeed
yes.
and congratulations on your success, brother. And we are praying for you out here that you get to achieve your dreams and, live the life that you deserve to live.
Yes, him
Inshallah.
and his whole family.
Yeah.
And he was really excited because he was going back home to see his family. I think it's a 4-hour trip for him from school to where he lived in Cairo. So he
Okay.
went back home to see them, and I think he's back at school now. But um,
Aw.
yeah, it just
Good
makes me so
news.
happy. I've been like advocating for this boy for almost the entire time I've been doing this, and it just like warms my heart to see something good happening
Well,
somewhere. You know what I mean?
there's such amazing, capable, intelligent, resilient, like resourceful people that you can only imagine if the Palestinian people uninhibited were allowed to like go for it, that they can do anything. Like, no wonder why Israel's afraid of them. They're just like, I've seen these people just literally like make something out of nothing. Like, it's
Right.
amazing.
Right.
So yeah, I really also, it reminds me of my son Ali. He's such a smart kid and he's so capable, and like
How old is he?
he's 14,
14.
and yeah, he wants to become a doctor one day and help his people, and he looks out for people. He picked a family the other day where he took his own money that he made because he's a little entrepreneur, made his own little bit of money, and he took some of that and he actually bought groceries for a family in need, and he's just so smart and capable. And I told him the other day, like, if you have the ability to like grow up and live your dreams, like, you were just gonna be able to do whatever you want.
Um, so now perhaps the most provocative angle of our whole night's worth of talking. Trump's name is being thrown in the ring, and it makes me laugh because it's so ridiculous. But Trump's name is being thrown in the ring for the Nobel Peace Prize. What the fuck are we even saying right now? Like,
I see an update on one of my news channels on Telegram, and it's Candace Owens, and it says, commentator Candace Owens sharply criticized Donald Trump after he sought a Nobel Peace Prize for his role in supporting Israel's campaign in Gaza. Owens says Israel is committing ethnic cleansing and a real Holocaust through its mass killing of children, saying no leader should be rewarded for enabling such atrocities. I mean, she said
right.
it. She said it well.
She
It's
did say it
true.
well.
He has no business. That's why I made a video earlier and it said, like, this guy's got to be a comedian because, I mean, the jokes just don't stop with it.
Well, I do have to say that I did read something. I don't know if you sent it to me or if I saw it somewhere else, but he's not eligible to actually receive the Nobel
Yeah.
Peace Prize. But the
Yeah, he
fact that
won't.
his name was even mentioned is wild to me. And it just has to go to show with his ego, he's going to say, oh, look what I did. Look what I did. Look what I did. I'm the greatest person in the world. No, you're not. No, you're not. You enabled this.
Classic, like, create the problem and then come in and play savior, right? That's what America loves to do. It's just a game of good cop, bad cop. I mean, we know, like, we are Israel, they are us, pretty much. Like, there's no separation at this point. So, in my opinion, it's like, get in there, bad cop, and get the job done, and then we can come in, save the day, and take all the credit. But here's the article about what you were talking about, and it says, this is a French press release, French press.
Yes.
It says the Nobel Prize Committee has excluded Trump from the list of nominees for the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize. I keep saying fries. Maybe I'm hungry for fries. A report from the Times of Israel quoting AFP says Trump will not be a winner of the Nobel Peace Prize this year. And let's see. Yeah, they were saying they're 100% sure he will not be able to take it because apparently the whole committee on Nobel Peace Prize.
Well, they've already voted. Like, they've already voted for the year, right?
Yeah.
So even if they added his name to the list, like, they've already voted. So they're not going to
probably
change.
like, dude, you don't even qualify for this. Like, get out of here. I mean, it's wild too, because to say the Peace Prize, he just changed the Department of Homeland Security to the Department of War, for crying out loud.
So
and has also like
yes,
sent troops into his own major cities to police and like
that's a whole other topic for a whole other show, because
but it's like you fund genocide, you bomb over 6 countries the first minute that you get into office, you unleash the National Guard on your own people. Like, bro, you have no get out of here with that.
He's so far. It's so out of pocket. It's so fucking out of pocket that it doesn't even make sense why anyone would even consider him for a Nobel Peace Prize.
Major delusions of grandeur, for sure.
Right. Major.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's at least a character trait, a psychological trait of a narcissist, but at most it could also, that's something that psychopaths do. So I'm not saying anything.
He is a psychopath. There's
a lot of psychopaths are actually in positions of power, so it makes sense if he is.
With everything going on in our world, and this is another topic that we'll have to cover another day, because the U.S. is a whole chunk of Trump that I want to dive into with you as well too. But it's so wild that we have to separate all of these pieces because they are so encompassing in everything that we do and everything that we talk about. Because there's no way we can talk about Trump in Gaza without talking about Trump in the U.S. or Trump in other countries, because we're freaking everywhere.
Yeah,
right?
America's in it's got its hands in everything. And we, for some reason, think it's our government thinks it's their duty to basically, police the whole world. And it's crazy. I mean, I agree. It's definitely a whole, but it's all connected. And I think that's kind of what it brings it all back around to is that, like, it's something we've talked about before. Just, Americans that might be watching this or find this that don't know a lot about what's going on or have a hard time seeing how it's connected to you. Like, our president alone is making major global decisions to affect regions all around the world. Like, we are literally connected to all of it. And so I think it's our responsibility to know what's going on and, like, to at least slightly pay attention.
Right. We do need to pay attention because even with just Gaza, even with Congo, Sudan, Tigray, Haiti, like we are so far involved in all of these crazy and disgusting things that are happening in the world that we have to keep our eyes on the ball. And you and I both know how tiring that is, right? Like, this is not something that is easier for the faint of heart. Like,
I was just thinking the same thing.
this is the hardest thing that I've ever done in my entire life, and I don't think that that even qualifies as the right way of saying it, because I know you know what I'm saying. Like, this takes everything out of you. If you lose one person of one of your families, you're wiped. You
Yeah.
don't got
It,
nothing
t-
left
it
to
took me
give.
out for several months. I mean,
Right.
honestly, today was probably the most energized I've felt in a long time to be able to actually, make content. And I think that's part of it too, is like, the psychological warfare just beating us down continuously to the point where, like, they want us to lose, like, lose energy and, like, to kind of lose that will to basically keep fighting. So we'll just lay down and give up. And there have been times I've thought, like, I'm just going to give up. I don't even want to make videos anymore. But then you have Netanyahu and the Israeli government coming out here paying influencers $7,000 a post, and you realize how important it is for each one of us to, like, use our platforms and to use our voices to keep fighting, because obviously they find us to be a major threat. So it's like, if you got to rest, you got to take it easy for a minute. Like, we do what we need to do and then we get back up and get back on the horse, because we have to. We don't really have an option right now with the entity that we're fighting, that's literally trying to enslave humanity as we know it, to fully give up and stop. We can't. Have the Palestinians had they had the opportunity to turn it off or shut it off? No. And we do get to do that. And so that's a privilege we have. And I try to remember that sometimes. It's like, you know what? It's that lyrics from that song that I love, and just save sorrow for tomorrow, because today we freedom fight. So that, yeah, it's been all day. I think we're pretty productive today, though. We've both managed to crank out a few videos, and, like, now we're doing this one too. So, but it took me all day to just keep up with the news and get 3 videos done. It's
You
exhausting.
said something about a song being stuck in your head, and the one that I've had stuck in my head all day long is that I can't sing, but it's "Free, Free Palestine." And it says,
That one
"No
always gets
more
stuck in
worries,
my
no
head. There's
more
some other
lies."
ones too, but
Yeah.
yeah,
And when you actually sit and you listen to the words of that song, it's just like, they're so strong. Like, they just keep going. And I think that that's very inspirational. So if you've made it this far, thank you so much for being here. Seriously, these conversations matter the most. And it's voices like yours that keep the truth alive when the headlines start to fade. So make sure that you like this video, you subscribe to my channel, subscribe to Femme's channel, and share it out. So make sure that you stick around, because it's going to get pretty wild, I think, up in here. So stay locked in, keep following, and we'll keep you informed with what's going on. This has been Kim's Breaking Point. We'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, free Palestine.